All right, let's get it going. How we doing? As always, check 1, 2. Microphone good? How we sound in here? Check 1, 2, 3. Thumbs up if we sound good. I'll get warmed up here and get ready to go. Tonight is a great night to talk sports. Perfect setup tonight. These are the nights I definitely want to be heard and be on. So we'll fill this up in a few minutes and get it going. Appreciate you showing up. Thank you. It's weird. In radio, you have to talk the entire time. You can't pause. As you're setting up a podcast or a live stream, you can take a break. You can get up for a minute. You can walk, get a drink of water. But radio, it's nonstop until the break, until the update, until the 2-minute drill or the sports bite. Here, I'm not used to pausing. I'm not used to pausing and looking at stuff and not looking down. So it's kind of fun here as we get going. New computer. Thanks to tech support in the next room, we have a new computer, so we're getting there. I'm excited about the equipment that we purchased and what we got going. And we're going to move studios around in the house and do some things here. But overall, excited to get going, embrace this platform and technology. And Looney and I, remember, I got a podcast with Tom Looney, JT and Looney, wherever you download your podcast. We're going to do a podcast actually in a week on how difficult it is to podcast and get it going and getting off the ground now that we had it building up for a couple of years now and we have it and we know we're going to do it all the time. The equipment, how to get going again, what do you have to do, lighting, everything. We're going to have a good time talking about that. It won't be boring because we got some good stories about the path that we've been on. Good evening. Love listening to the shows. Appreciate it. MF. That's why we're trying to do this. We want people in LA, where I lived for 10 years, to be able to hear me if I'm not on in the middle of the day, 6 o'clock. And by the way, the weather is unbelievable right now. Sun's not even setting over my house. It is sunny outside. Look at your watch. 6:06, 6:05, and the weather is unbelievable here. In Vegas, we had a couple of weeks of winter. Yeah, we had a lot of rain, more rain than we usually get, a little snow on the mountains. It was not great. If you remember, Super Bowl week here was not good in February. It was cold. It barely was nice until that weekend. And then we had another wet couple of weeks, and now we're perfect. The best place to live. And if you can live on the ocean in La Jolla, or you can live in Naples where my parents live, you can live on the ocean in Ponte Vedra, that's one thing. But to come to Vegas now, if you can book a ticket to get to Vegas here in March, definitely all of April. May is fabulous along with June. Then it pipes up and gets hot. But even in June, it doesn't get over 100. If it's 105, it feels like 85. And then July, we start to bake. But I like it outside hot. It gets to 110, but it feels like 105. And then once it gets to 115, it feels like 115. And we get that in July and August. And that's where most people in Vegas want to bolt. But I'll tell you, I wish I could flip the camera over. The sun about to set on the Red Rock Mountains in my neighborhood here in Summerlin, and it just looks great. All right, we're going to get going here. We got some people in the room. Thanks again. Please hit like, but subscribe. That's why we're doing this, to hit subscribe as we get going. There's 4 big things going on right now in sports. First, the owners' meetings, the NFL owners' meetings in Orlando. That's a big deal. A lot normally doesn't happen except rule changes, and they gave us a new rule change on what's happening with kickoffs, and I'm going to go off on it. I'm really upset about it. Number 2, Shohei Ohtani. He had the press conference yesterday. I thought he was magnificent in the press conference. His role, what he had to do, right or wrong, he was magnificent. Red, he doesn't speak English. He speaks Japanese. He got in and out. He didn't take questions, didn't have to. The investigation is just starting, and he got up and down, and he did okay. But most people I talk to believe no part of the story. Everybody I talk to, from bent noses to Vegas insiders, people on and off the record, think that this thing stinks and something wild is going on. And this is going to be a huge story with tentacles to Vegas. Storyline number 2. Third topic will be my top 5 quarterbacks, which changed since the last live stream. And that's okay. Things can evolve. You can watch tape. You can hear what an insider says. You can see a colleague's mock draft and maybe change your mind. I saw something with one of the quarterbacks that leapfrogs him over who everybody thought was a better quarterback 2-3 weeks ago. I'll jump into that. And then this NBA gambling story, which is potentially massive with the Raptor player and the prop bets and coming out of the game or not. That could be a rippling effect in the NBA. So that's where we're going as we start off. And again, anything you have here in the chat, put it in there and I'll get back to it. Yes, Adam says Mount Charleston. Mount Charleston is the other way, right out to my left. I'm looking at exactly at Red Rocks. And then Mount Charleston is out behind that. We have beautiful snow on Mount Charleston. Fountain of Youth, two-hand touch league. Yep. And Ohtani didn't say much in English. He's not supposed to say anything in English. He doesn't speak English. Ohtani does not have to speak your favorite language. He doesn't speak Spanish, okay? He doesn't speak other languages. He speaks Japanese. He was right to speak Japanese. You won't hear anything from me on the interpreter or the former interpreter, yes, but just having an interpreter, he needs that for the size of the celebrity he is. All right, let's jump in with Ohtani. I'll get to the NFL. I thought Ohtani did great in the press conference. Here's what I'm tracking, and I'm going to be putting out on radio and on this platform on YouTube. Did he completely lie, or did he tell 100% the truth? He came across like it was 100% true, 100% true, which would mean in his eyes, he was completely blindsided. I talk about blindsided even before the robbery. Let's forget the robbery. He was blindsided by his best friend, not his interpreter. Ipe was his best friend. So that's the worst rule, getting blindsided and screwed over by your best friend. Number two, did the story add up? How come Ipe spoke in Seoul to ESPN on a Tuesday? On Wednesday, the story changed. I believe that's the smoking gun. What's going to probably clear Ohtani or hurt him will be the wire transfers. The wire transfers, because he claims he didn't wire any money. I thought he was going to say, yeah, even I wired money to bail my buddy out. I wanted to help my friend, so I wired money. He's acting like he didn't wire the money. He didn't know Ipe gambled. And then the biggest one was he ended up saying that he's never placed a bet and he doesn't gamble on anything. Wow. That's going to be interesting how he proves that, because that's what the feds are going after. The feds want to know through the bookie in Los Angeles, who has underlings who hang out in Vegas and New York and other cities. They're going to want to know if specifically Ohtani placed any bet on any sport. It could be international soccer, it could be tennis, whatever it is. Because Ohtani just said at a Dodger press conference he's never bet, and he doesn't bet on sports. So he set himself up for a big fall if it turns out anywhere along this forensic investigation that he ended up betting on any sport. Forget about baseball. I don't think he bet on baseball. Ipe, I don't think bet on baseball, but we don't know that yet. I talked to one guy today over coffee who's an icon in Vegas in not sports betting, but business. And he said to me, there's no way, illegal bookie or not, no business, no one's taking that type of credit risk up to $4.5 million in debts before they collect it earlier, unless it's someone who's world famous at a level like Ohtani or a Mick Jagger or the biggest celebrity movie actor. Bookies book bets, and on Monday they get paid off. So you could go down to the Philly sandwich shop. You could have a bookie up in the mountains in Lake Tahoe. Whatever you bet with your bookie's your business. But at the end of the week, if you lose, you got to pay. And you don't want to do anything on records, cash, or you want to transfer cash. If you win, you'll maybe get your money or not. But if you lose 7 weeks in a row, most bookies are going to make you pay week 2, 3, or 4. They're not going to let you continue to lose for 6 months to a year or bring it up to 1 million, let alone 4 million, 4.5 million. So that's also a smoking gun. How did the wagers build up that much where the different wire transfers had to happen? And then again, do you know many people that have wire transfers behind their back? I know people who get robbed. People have gotten their Rolex stolen in their safe, or a bag of cash, or maybe some diamond rings. But normally people don't get robbed because their best friend goes behind their back, has their code to their bank account, and wire transfers money. It's ridiculous. That rarely happens. The greatest scammers in the world, the hackers in Russia, have a tough time doing that. You think Ipe, the translator who's with Ohtani all the time, was able to pull that off behind his back? So all topics that are wide open. I'm not solving the mystery. I'm not doing it tonight. But I love having this conversation because Ohtani did something great. Here's what he did, which was fabulous. He did complete denial. Oh, he went, there's 4 categories. Did I get robbed? Yes. Did I ever bet on baseball? No. He had to win that one. My friend let me down and he was stealing via a certain way behind my back with technology and transferring money. He said he had no idea for that. So Ohtani has basically denied anything that they could come back to with him and ask him about. But 2 other things I wanted to say, because Ohtani's speech was prepared by the Dodgers and the Dodgers attorneys. Some of the greatest attorneys in the world reside in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills and the Guggenheim Group and work for that proud organization. They have some of the best attorneys in the world, let alone his agents. And all the attorneys came together and they printed out a beautiful response, which Ohtani probably helped with, and he delivered it beautifully in his home country, in his language of Japanese. He didn't stutter. He didn't trip up with words. He didn't make any big mistakes. He was fantastic. Give him credit for that. But he basically told the investigators going forward, prove it. And what I mean by that is he told the investigators, the feds, the IRS, everybody who's going to be investigating the bookies to eBay, Ohtani put everything out there. You got nothing on me. This is what I'm giving you right out of the gate. That took balls. He did not give them any ability to look at a crack in his armor. He said, I did nothing wrong. I was let down. I was robbed. I was scammed. I knew nothing about it. And by the way, I don't bet, and I don't bet on baseball. And now it's off to the races for the feds and the internal investigators and the media investigators to see if there's something wrong with his story. So as of now, I like Ohtani. I don't want to see him take himself down, let alone the Dodgers or baseball with a massive scandal. Tim Kurkjian made a really good comment right after the press conference. He went live on SportsCenter and said, in 45 years of covering baseball, this is the most complicated story he's covered, the most bizarre and unique, he went along to say. And Tim Kurkjian, like I, was impressed with the press conference. It was very sincere from Ohtani. You know who else had a really sincere press conference? Lance Armstrong, when he was accused of doping. And he denied it, and he did it in France at the Tour de France. He did it in Austin, Texas. He did it in New York City. He went on big-time TV shows and told everyone how great he was as he was doping, and he lied about it the entire time. Would I put this on the level of Lance Armstrong? I don't know. If he doesn't get caught and he did nothing wrong, we won't have any comparable with Ohtani to Lance Armstrong. But Mark McGwire lied right to the face of the Maris family. He broke the home run record of Roger Maris, got in the crowd and climbed into the stands in St. Louis and hugged the whole family as he knowingly was taking performance-enhancing drugs, lying when asked if he was on performance-enhancing drugs. We've seen plenty of athletes. How about Rafael Palmeiro in front of Congress pointing? I have never taken steroids. Remember that classic line? It was like a movie. Rafael Palmeiro coming right in out of the gate. Palmeiro, I did never take steroids. Wow. And McGwire wouldn't speak in front of Congress, remember? McGwire wouldn't speak, and he had the right as an American citizen not to perjure himself and lie, and he didn't lie in front of Congress. This feels like it's got Congress written all over it. I really mean that. And Congress is only good at one thing, because half the time they're not there, they're not working, they're not getting stuff done. I'm kidding. But they have time to slot in a baseball investigation or an inquiry. They do it all the time. They have Roger Goodell in front of Congress. They bring up all major sporting people if there's a problem with business, antitrust. Believe me, we just saw the steroid investigations not too long ago, and everybody showed up, from Kurt Schilling to Sammy Sosa to Jose Canseco. Remember, Canseco wrote the book. So if I was a betting man right now, which I'm not, I would bet that at some point a couple of players in all this are in front of Congress testifying 6 months or 9 months down the road about what actually happened with this accusation. So let's read something here as we keep going here. I want to hear from people about what they think. Yeah, what bookie would keep funding him? That's a great question from Adam. Adam, I talked to several people on that. Hold on. What bookie would fund him? It's easy. A high-end bookie who does a lot of books a lot of bets. Okay, the bookie, the alleged bookie who's involved here, has bookies underneath him and other people that work underneath him. If he's doing a bunch of business in Hollywood, in New York, in Singapore, in London, wherever it is, if he's booking bets over the phone and his people are booking bets for him, he's got the ability, if he thinks it's Shohei Ohtani, to say, oh, I'll give him more credit, or I'll let Ohtani get back to me later because it's Ohtani. If Ipe was lying to the bookmaker and saying, hey, my boss is involved with all these bets, can we have more time to pay? That's all going to come out. It's a really important question because that's exactly what's going to come out in the investigation. The question, well, why did it take so long to pay these debts? How come they had to pay them all? And what was going to happen if they didn't pay? And who agreed to give them all that extra time? Why? So that's going to come out in the investigation, but really good question there. There's going to have to be a link between records directly to Ohtani. But how did he get that high in debt to a bookmaker? I don't know. I think they were placing big bets. Ipe was. He was the degenerate gambler. And I don't know how you can fall behind $4.5 million. That means you got 6 or 7 million, even if you're a bad gambler, in play throughout the whole entire process of that. I don't get it. I don't know that, but we're going to find out. That's going to be a big part of the investigation. Let's wrap up this section with this. The feds are going to squeeze the bookie. And the feds are going to say, we're going to not only send you to jail, we're going to send you to a tougher jail, and we're going to send you there longer if you don't cooperate with us. You're definitely going to jail. But instead of 10 years or 15 years or whatever, in this part of the country or this and that, we are going to move you. We're going to make it another 3 years, and you're going to go somewhere even farther away from home if you don't come clean with me and who was placing the bets, who was paying off the debts, what were your conversation and phone records like? And by the way, bring up their account and let's see what they were betting. That's yesterday's news. But Ohtani said he had nothing to do with it. Zero to do with it. That takes balls, man. If you're going to lie and say that, that's the extreme high level of being confident and feeling like they're not going to get you. All right, the NFL rule, the kickoff rule, man, I did a lot of that today. And I'm not pissed off about it. I'm disappointed with it. I talked to the son of a former special teams coach today. I took calls on the radio, and I talked to another guy, George Atkinson, one of the greatest punt returners, kickoffs, greatest defensive players in Raider history. We're friends. We had a conversation about something else, and this came up, and I just was like, George, when you played, oh, my God, you played for the Raiders in the 70s in the biggest games and at Shea Stadium against the Jets on your way to the Super Bowl. George Atkinson's rookie season, I think he had the kickoff return record when it came to total yards. Unbelievable stats, and he understands because he works for the Raiders. Times evolve, and you're going to make changes and rules from time to time, but, man, it's taken away a big part of the game. So what do we know about this rule now? The kicker's going to kick off at the 35. The players who are going to defend the kick and go down after the ball are going to line up on the other team's 40-yard line. And then the other team's going to line up, and they're going to have two people in what's called the landing zone between the end zone and the 20-yard line. And they're supposed to either catch the ball and run. The ball could go out of the end zone for a touchback, but the NFL is claiming this is going to bring out more returns, which I think it will. But let's get to the crux of this. What is it going to do for football? It's going to take away more hitting. It's going to take great tackling away. It's going to take away jobs from people who play on special teams and make their living on special teams. One more second here. So you're going to put everybody into a phone booth now. So the NFL wants nothing to do with the long kickoff. You kick it off. It doesn't go out of the back of the end zone. Player fields it inside, right underneath the goalpost, and he could go 106 yards for a touchdown. There's too much violence coming from the defense, too much violence. Helmet on helmets, hard hitting, that they want that completely out of the game. And they've taken it out of the game. Now they have this new landing zone where the players who are going to defend start from scratch, from a dead stop. They don't get a running start like they do. They're going to have to stand there and wait for the ball to be caught. And then they're going to take off in a tight phone booth. So there's not going to be big, long 30-yard missiles coming to blow up a play and blow the ball up. Maybe there's a fumble and the team that's losing and kicks off can come back and win the game. They're taking that completely out of the game. So are they going to field more kickoffs? Yeah. Are there going to be 10 guys, 9 guys in front of the 2 guys who are there to catch the ball? Yeah. But right there at the 40-yard line on the other side of the field, right where they're kicking off to the team, you're going to have 10 players waiting as soon as the ball hits the ground or is touched, and they are just going to swarm on that player and probably tackle him quickly. Of course, there'll be a touchdown. There'll be a breakdown. Someone will give a great block, and there'll be a 30-yard return. But here's the worst thing they did. We found out today that they eliminated the onside kick forever. You're allowed to have an onside kick, but you have to alert the other team. You tell me something softer. You tell me something weirder and wackier than that. You have a play that they're going to allow to stay in the history of the game, the onside kick. Sean Payton did it in a Super Bowl to start the half, and it worked, changed the energy of the game. Every team in the NFL, all 32 of them, have several great onside kicks that they could look back in the history of their team. Today, they slide it in that the onside kick now, you have to alert the other team. So I'll give you an example. Antonio Pierce is trailing to Kansas City at Arrowhead 21-7, and they got to kick it off again to Kansas City to start the third quarter. Antonio Pierce says to his kicker, Daniel Carlson, come here, onside kick. Everyone knows. Covers his face, onside kick. We're going with it right now. Nope. You got to go over to Andy Reid and say, Mr. Reid, Mr. Pierce would like to alert you that there's going to be an onside kick. That is bullshit. That is completely over the line. You have taken away something that doesn't work all the time, but it might work. We love the play. We don't like kickoffs that go through the end zone. We don't like kickoffs, fair catches, but we love a good onside kick where the ball bounces up high and guys are trying to knock each other out and get the ball and win the game. Goodbye to that. So now we're at a point in time where we're not allowed to have a secret play. A secret play. Isn't that the tactics of the NFL and war? You know, they always tie war to the NFL and the battle and the gridiron. So we're not allowed to do a sneak attack anymore in NFL history. Not allowed to go and say, you know, I want to onside kick every kickoff the entire game because I am allowed to do that. I'm the bleeping head coach. Nope, can't do it. You got to go tell the other coach. It's ridiculous. So I'm pretty pissed off today. I'm really upset today because they touched the sport of the NFL again, and I don't think they should be touching our sport. They can change the rules for safety. Well, I talked to some former players about this for 20 years, not today. For 20 years, I've talked to a lot of former players about the fact that the league never cared about them, didn't care about their pensions, didn't care about their health benefits, didn't care about all the surgeries they had that couldn't be paid for after a certain amount of time. Plus, those older players don't have big enough pensions and they don't have the money and they didn't get paid anything back in the day. I'm talking what they made in the 60s and 70s. You wouldn't believe the number. So they don't have any money left other than their pension, which was small. And if they're famous, maybe they can sign some autographs. And all of a sudden now we care about safety. All of a sudden now we're using the XFL kickoff. We're eliminating tackle football during the week at practice. There's only limited days and pads, so you're not even allowed to put your players in pads. The union has negotiated this with the owners, so there's only a few padded practice days. No one can debate that they're trying to cut down on the hard hits on special teams. They're saying that right to your face. Now you have the hip swivel tackle that they talked about this week. It doesn't happen often, but how many times do you think a flag's going to be thrown? And Mahomes is going to have a 3rd and 14, and Mahomes is going to race to his left outside the pocket. Someone's going to be chasing him because he's got to get 14 yards, and he's at 10 yards into it. Someone's going to dive to grab Mahomes by the waist, and they're going to actually have to come to the ground because they dove to bring him down, and their body weight's going to fall on Mahomes, and they're going to go. That's a hip drop tackle. First down, Kansas City. Move the ball from the 40 to the 25, set up for a field goal, and Mahomes wins the game. I'm just giving you Mahomes because they deserve to catch some heat because they're the Super Bowl champs. We can't let them run away with this thing again. But I didn't like that too. Don't worry about the hip drop tackle. I mean, a couple of guys have been injured on it. Yes, guys get injured every day in practice. Every day in practice, they get injured throughout their career live during a game. We can't slow the game down so much that we're taking away all of it, because we can still tackle on any play as hard as you can. But if you go low, you should be penalized. If you go high to the head, you should be penalized. But now if you make a great tackle and it's pretty violent and good, they throw flags for roughing and they find a way to call the flag. That's what's made me furious with this sport. They've now taken the controlled beauty of the great tackle, the violent tackle, and they found a way to throw a flag. Now with the hip drop, what's going to happen on special teams? What's already happening with the negotiation of padded practices? They are taking and changing football right before your eyes. Right before your eyes. And I love the NFL. I make a living in the NFL. My life, a lot of it has to do with some cool stuff from the NFL. But I really believe they're changing the rules too often. Too often, and it's benefiting the offense, and it's taken away from some excitement in the game with the physicality of the game. What else do I got? Yeah, I see Mahomes getting that call a lot. Adam says here. Eduardo, little muscle for Ray Guy. Yes. Eduardo says now quarterbacks will flop on the hip drop. You're right. Oh, you better believe it. That's a really good point. If you know that the refs are there and it's a tackle, the only thing the hip drop is when you grab someone and you go to the ground. If you twist your body to further make it more violent, like it's called a hip, and you drop them to the ground and do that, you're just finishing a tackle for 100 years. The sport had its 100-year anniversary. For 100 years, probably 91 or 88 of the 100 years, you were allowed to grab anyone who had the ball and violently bring them to the ground. And then they took the head out of that, which I agree with. Now they're taking the hip drop out. They're taking the horse collar. Okay, agree with that. They're taking away everything from the defense other than the rugby tackle, which they're really pushing hard, which is the proper tackle. But sometimes in a game when it's snowing and you got snot bubbles and you're down and the game's on the line and it's cold and windy, you got to make a fucking tackle. And you got to make a really hard tackle in a violent game. And I'm sick of seeing these flags. And now they gave us another reason for a flag. All right, let's get to one last thing I want to jump in here on, and it's important. My top 5 quarterbacks now. Top 5 from 5 to 1, obviously. I don't like any list that's 1 through 5. You don't give the best first. You make everyone wait. So these are the quarterbacks in the draft, and I think 6 will go in the first round, depending on Bo Nix, Michael Penix. But I've changed my list in the last 2 weeks because I see one relevant change that's starting to become obvious to everybody. The comparison of J.J. McCarthy and a national championship and working for Jim Harbaugh privately for years and doing really good. You saw him on TV all this past college football playoff because he won it all. And the comparison to Drake May from North Carolina, who's never on TV. I mean, his games were on TV regionally. And you remember North Carolina games where you didn't stop everything you did on a Saturday and said to yourself that you wanted to go see a Drake May game. You didn't. So Drake May now could get he could get overlapped by Jaden Daniels and J.J. McCarthy. I think that's pretty extreme, but it's floating around there, man. It's all over the place. Everybody's talking about that now because all the teams that know they can get Jaden Daniels at 2, the Commanders, 3, the Patriots. Other teams want Jaden Daniels. There's 5 teams that want Jaden Daniels. So with all that happening, now we're playing real Las Vegas poker. Bluffing, bluffing, bluffing. I'm holding something back. I'm going to come over the top. It's going to get crazy for the next 29, 30 days, and I love it. That's predominantly all the content I'm going to have coming up here for the next month. Other than March Madness, I really believe it's going to be what happens at the quarterback position. So at number 5, I have Michael Penix Jr. from Washington, who I saw play in the Pac-12, the last ever Pac-12 championship. Big arm, great thrower, big guy. He's been hurt. Shoulder injuries, knee injuries. He's been hurt. And he's not young. He's not 20. He's not 21. He's coming in, but I've seen enough of the long ball live and on tape. I've seen the composure in the pocket, but most importantly, I've seen the beauty of his deep ball and crossing route and how strong his arm is. I love him as a pocket passer. I don't want to see him run a lot. I don't have him on the same level of running, obviously, as Jaden Daniels or some other quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, no one runs like him other than Jaden Daniels. But I don't want to see Penix, if he comes into the league, run. Steve Young running, no. Don't want to see him do it because he gets hurt and he throws a beautiful ball, and he should only run under necessary circumstance. So Penix at 5. Number 4, I moved down Drake May. Okay, so Drake May from number 2, where I thought he was a month or two ago, I move him now back because I don't think he proved a lot in some super big games. He didn't play a lot of big games, but he had up and downs. But what jumps out at you is he looks like a quarterback. He acts like a quarterback. He can make every single throw, and he's strong and smart. But that's exactly what I saw with Sam Darnold when he came out of USC. That's exactly what I saw with Ryan Leaf. Now, I don't think Drake May is going to have a unfortunate career like Ryan Leaf, who's a great guy, unbelievable broadcaster. Shout out to Ryan Leaf. But Drake May, I think his ceiling, it's not Brett Favre. If it was Brett Favre, I'd say it. I don't know what his ceiling's going to be. So I'm going to back off of him here, but I know my gut feeling I could be wrong if he turns out to be a big, strong, the prototype, Andrew Luck. Drake May, Andrew Luck. That's the ceiling for Drake May, which is a big one. He's a good player. So I'm moving J.J. McCarthy into number 3 because the hype is real. Harbaugh, like it or not, doesn't need a quarterback at 5. Can't get J.J. McCarthy. Won't draft him as a backup. He's got Justin Herbert, and Harbaugh's blowing him up. Best pro day he's ever seen. Jim Harbaugh got a lot out of Colin Kaepernick. Jim Harbaugh was a hell of a quarterback. He's been to every pro day you can possibly go to. When he was a recruiter going to see high school kids, when high school kids have their local pro days where they're going to work out for you, Harbaugh's done that. So all these kids 15 years ago, he says J.J. McCarthy, best ever. I believe a little of that. I think a lot of it is to help out the young man who won him a national championship. But I'm going to go J.J. McCarthy number 3 because I think he's better than Kirk Cousins at the same age. And Kirk Cousins came out of Michigan State. No one thought super highly of him. He turned out to be very good. J.J. McCarthy's better than Kirk Cousins coming out at the same time. And I'd like a player like that. So I have him at 3. Number 2, Jaden Daniels. Nothing's going to change there. I think Jaden Daniels' ability to run is sick. I mean, the Heisman Trophy rushing numbers he put up were immaculate. I mean, Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick are blushing when they see those numbers. And then he throws better. He threw better at the same time in college than Michael Vick ever threw in college or as a pro. And Michael Vick made big throws, but Jaden Daniels throws a much better ball and does a lot more spin in it than Michael Vick. And Vick was very good. But then we get to a guy who's amazing in Lamar Jackson. The comp is Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson went at the end of the first round. And now you're talking about Jaden Daniels maybe going 2. And the Washington Commanders take him 2. Raider fans who are here, I know you want him. If you want to trade up to 2 or 3, go do it. I would encourage it. I would love it, but I don't know if Tom Telesco is going to do that. And the number 1 quarterback remains Caleb Williams. I got people saying, well, you got pink nails and pink sunglasses and this. He is a character. He's charismatic. The people who have been around him in the past, my oldest son's been around him, said, what a great guy. What a great human being. Played at Oklahoma, played at USC, won a Heisman. But the beauty of him outside at the Coliseum in Los Angeles as night sets and he's running outside the pocket, looking downfield, head up, and then like Mahomes, boom, a rocket like Favre and Aaron Rodgers, a perfect ball. Favre and Rodgers and others could run, Steve Young. And when Caleb takes off and run, he looks like a man amongst boys. Jaden Daniels looks great when he runs too, but if he doesn't go down, he's going to get popped and people are going to try to break him in half. He is tiny. Caleb Williams isn't tiny. That guy takes off and runs. And as I always say this about Caleb, Caleb was better than Mahomes at the same age. Caleb went to Oklahoma. We know Texas Tech and what we wanted to see with Mahomes. He could have maybe went to Notre Dame. I don't know. He's the son of a pro athlete. He decided to go where he went. Baker Mayfield was elite at Oklahoma. He won a Heisman Trophy. When I look at Baker Mayfield, I see a little bit of J.J. McCarthy. I see a lot of that guy running up the middle, but I'd say Baker Mayfield was better than J.J. McCarthy. I would take Baker Mayfield number one when he came out. I wouldn't take J.J. McCarthy because Caleb Williams is one, Jaden Daniels two, J.J., then we go Drake May and Michael Penix, and then Bo Nix. If Bo Nix goes in there at some point, I'm fine with that too. Bo Nix can play. He proved it in college. Come on. Bo Nix at Auburn and Oregon, all the years he played, all the throws he made, all the big hits he took, he can play. He can be just as good as some of the quarterbacks in this league now. Again, I used the Kirk Cousins comp. I was on the radio when Kirk Cousins played in college and came into the league. No one really cared until he said, you like that with the Commanders, and then went to Minnesota. Now another 180 million, 100 plus guaranteed to go to Atlanta. It's incredible. You don't think Bo Nix can be Kirk Cousins? You don't think that Drake May can be Kirk Cousins? All these guys have to do is not flame out. Make it through year 2 or 3. Sam Darnold, I give him a lot of credit. Some people said he's done. He's a backup in San Francisco. San Francisco went to the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy started. Sam Darnold sat. Sam Darnold's going to get a start in Minnesota. Still very young player. He could turn out to be good. So that's the third topic. And then finally, let's get to the Sweet 16. As I have my bracket here in front of me, I picked Houston to win it all over UConn. I know I didn't go out on a limb, but a lot of people now would have UConn over Houston. Houston fell apart at the end of their last victory. They beat Texas A&M, and they were so undisciplined. 4 players fouled out. They were stupid. They were taking 3-pointers with the lead. Let me get that out of the way. That's a really hot JT, hot flaming take right now that I'm dropping everywhere. I hate the 3-pointer when you have the lead. These college kids are all shooting threes, man. You shoot threes throughout the game to get a lead, or if you're down, to get back in the game. When you have the lead in under 5 minutes and you're up 5 or 7, you don't take a three. You attack the rim. You drop it in the paint. You kick it around until you get a perfect three. Did you watch Houston with the lead at the end of that game? They're coming down like Steph, missing threes. No one's rebounded. We're nuts. And Texas A&M gave them a game, but Houston advances. I got Houston beating Duke and covering the spread. Duke's going to do one thing. They're going to try to run right at Houston and get them in foul trouble again. They're going to try to get to the free throw line. The one thing that Houston left the door open, the team I picked to win it all, you can get them in foul trouble. They are reckless, out of control. They're grown-ass men. They reach for the ball. They try to steal the ball. They're always committing fouls. Duke's smart enough to try to get them in foul trouble. NC State, Marquette. Marquette really struggled against Colorado, 81-77. I'll go with Marquette to win this game over NC State. We had the NC State coach on a week and a half ago. Fine man. Unbelievable conversation, but Marquette's a good number 2. The Marquette and Tennessee are 2 number 2s that I think could win it all. They're good enough. Their talent is great across the board. Purdue will take on Zagalicious. I thought Gonzaga would be beat by now. The one time I didn't think Gonzaga would do anything, and they blow out Kansas, 89-68. I'll give Gonzaga a puncher's chance in this game. I will. If they can get it into the second half, into the 10-minute mark, down by no more than 6, I think they can win the game. But I think Purdue is the much better team. Purdue's personnel, not coaching. Painter's good, and Mark Few's really good. But with Zach Edey and Purdue's entire starting 5, they're better than Gonzaga. This isn't Gonzaga 3-4 years ago where they had NBA players. They have good players now. I'll go with Purdue in that one. Tennessee Creighton's a great one. I hope people watch it. I love the athleticism of Tennessee. I love how they defend the basket. I love how they get out in transition. They're just like a young NBA team, super long and athletic. I love watching Tennessee. Creighton will wear you down at the free throw line. They'll get buckets in the paint. They got a good coach, and they're going to stay in that game. They're going to fight. They are a tough group of guys. Their group is tough. But I got Tennessee winning the game. Arizona, Clemson. Clemson also struggled. You see the end of the Baylor game, they left the door open and collapsed. and Baylor could have won that game from behind. I've seen Arizona play live this year. They're shaky. They're up and down. They didn't even win the Pac-12. I think they'll win. I don't think they'll cover the spread. I like Arizona. I'm liking all the chalks here overall. And then finally, North Carolina, Alabama. That's my upset. I like Alabama. And as I look at this, Alabama played Grand Canyon and Charleston. They haven't been battle tested. They're rested, ready to go. North Carolina coming off a good win against Michigan State. That was a tough physical game for them, even though they won that. My upset will be Alabama there. I'm in the Illini room, my wife calls this. Fighting Illini. Illinois is who we're rooting for in this house. We are Illini fans. We are Illini fans in this house. I got Illinois over Iowa State, the Fighting Illini, getting to the Elite Eight there. I think Illinois played great to win the Big Ten, and they looked fantastic in their last game. And Iowa State had a big game to win their conference tournament. I think they're going to be on a bit of fumes, and I like Illinois to put them away late. And then UConn, San Diego State. I saw San Diego State play a couple weeks ago. They were no better than Utah State or UNLV or anybody in the Mountain West. I'm not picking them to beat UConn. No way in hell. UConn is loaded. San Diego State was in the championship game last year. Great to see them back in the Sweet 16. UConn wins and covers the spread. All right, one last look here at the chat. We'll get in here. Giants are a mess. Need a good pick for sure from Paul. You know, that's a really fascinating question. What happens if J.J. McCarthy's available for the Giants at 6? You got to take him. You got to take J.J. McCarthy. And I don't think he'll be there. I think the Patriots could take J.J. McCarthy at 3. And there's going to be a trade. If Minnesota trades up, the Raiders, Denver trades up, I think McCarthy's gone. But that's going to be really interesting to see. Oh, and here's one, another one. Mr. Sweeney says, what about trading down to get Penix? Now, I said that on my local show today. You don't want to get cute and trade down. You trade, if you have Penix right there, take him. Just take him because he's there. He's the guy you want. If you trade back 3 or 19 or you trade back 8 picks and someone comes over the top and slam dunks on you and you lose Penix, you lost a guy you wanted that you got cute with, and you lost all the other players before that you could have took over Penix. I wouldn't trade back for anybody. Raider Ryan, salute nation, salute to the man. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming in here. Raider Romeo says, if the Raiders can't get top 3 pick, what quarterback should they get? Well, look, I think the Raiders need a quarterback. So if they don't get top 3, that's going to be Jaden Daniels, the one they probably want the most. They're going to stay at 13, and they could get Michael Penix or Bo Nix. I wouldn't take Bo Nix at number 1 if they take him. We'll welcome him to the Raider Nation. But Penix should be there at 13. And if the Raiders have to get a quarterback, I'd take him there because I think the quarterbacks will be gone when the Raiders pick in the second round. And the Raiders need an offensive lineman bad now. Really bad. The Raiders got Gardner Minshew, who was great with me on the radio. What a hoot. What a trip he was. Wow, what an interview. So Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell was the starter for most of the year last year on the back end in one game. So he's going to get the opportunity to start. Forget about who the Raiders draft or not. The lead in the offseason is going to be clearly Aiden O'Connell unless Gardner Minshew completely outplays him in the preseason, which could happen. Anything could happen. But Aiden O'Connell is going to get the first chance to have an opportunity to do that. And he deserves it because he helped Antonio Pierce get the job because Aiden O'Connell won games down the stretch. But I'd love to see the Raiders get a top tier quarterback and just know that I'm a season ticket holder, have them for years to come. That would be good. A couple of other ones before we get out of here. JT, you know Raiders taking Penix. No, I don't know. I know nothing what the Raiders are doing. 0. They don't bring me into the private meeting with Mark Davis, Tom Telesco, Antonio Pierce. I don't get in that meeting. I talk to them all the time, but they don't pull me in the lunchroom and tell me what they're going to do, and I like it that way. I like it that way. I let the bloggers and the YouTubers try to figure that out. Look at me as I'm sitting here on YouTube. All right, again, please hit subscribe. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for hitting like on everything. I'm almost there, man. I got a brand new computer. Microphone sounds good. The camera looks pretty good, and I got this Logitech camera that I've been using, which I like a lot. What else? We're just trying to find a way to incorporate calls and guests into this, but I can't do that from home anyway. I'd have to do that from the studio. So basically, this channel in the beginning, because we're in the beginning and we're trying to build it up, so please share it with other people. We're brought to you by Modelo, the fighting spirit of Modelo. The number one beer in America is Modelo. Do you know that? Used to be a couple of other beer companies. The number one beer in America is Modelo. And I've been with them before they were the number one beer. So how lucky and proud am I to help promote Modelo? But a lot of these are going to be quick live streams when something happens in sports that's cool. Didn't expect the Ohtani thing to pop up. That's going to give us a week of content. It's 52 weeks in a year. I take a couple of nice vacations, not many, but 3, 4, 5 weeks. I deserve that. Now getting older, 6, 7 weeks vacation to see my mom and dad, and my sisters. I think I deserve that. But Ohtani gave us a free week. By Friday, I'm going to write in my journal, thanks Shohei, because in a dead zone where the NFL is off, the NBA playoffs haven't started yet, we got a good week out of Ohtani. It's a big story, man. Huge story. And I don't know how it's going to play out, but a lot of other people do. A lot of other people want to talk about the fall of Ohtani. Let me leave you on this point. Don't root for people to fail. Don't have, you have, everybody has people they don't like. Some have enemies. You shouldn't have enemies. But if you ever believe that someone's going to fail and you root for them to fail, that's bad karma. I don't believe in sports karma, but that's bad karma. And when it comes to Ohtani, I'd never want to be one of the first guys on radio or a podcast saying, I hope he gambled and I hope he gets caught and I hope his career's over. I never said that about Barry Bonds. I didn't want his life to end because of alleged steroid abuse with Balco and all that. You don't want to root for people to do bad unless they're just really bad people out in society. And that happens. So for Ohtani, I hope this clears up. But it is a swarming bee's nest of drama and hype because it doesn't add up. And there's too many people who bet, and there's too many high rollers, and there's too many sharp, cool people in this country that are involved in sports and gambling. And the majority of them think that there's something really wrong here. Talk to those people, not the members of Dodgers media, many who I know who are great people. They're not going to be allowed to get involved in this. But let's find the best investigative journalist. I know the feds are going to have their best people on it. Could you imagine the feds in California who get assigned to this case on Ohtani and the illegal bookmaker? They're the best of the best. They do this all the time. They're going to get to the bottom of this. And then maybe we won't have a baseball controversy and we can root for my Yankees to win the World Series. That's it. I'm ending it. My baseball preview in 3, 2, 1. My Yankees win the 28th World Series in Yankee history. Cole comes back from injury. Judge wins the MVP. Stanton shows up because he's playing for a contract. LeMahieu gets healthy. Oh, wow. I'm talking about all my Yanks. They're all injured. They're all hurt across the board. But for 30 years in a row, 27 on radio, I'll say the same thing. My Yankees to win the World Series. You know where to find me if I'm wrong. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Raider Nation Radio tomorrow, noon to 2 Pacific, 3 to 5 Eastern. Please share this page and get some other people involved as we continue to build it. Have a great night, everyone.